Are you ready?
For a candid conversation with industry leaders.
Are you ready?
To explore the latest trends and technologies impacting modern manufacturers.
Are you ready?
Or Chris Luecke in the Creators Lounge.
Please welcome to the Creators Lounge, Autodesk.
All right, we are back at IMTS 2024, where I'm joined by Luke Mihelcic. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Great having Autodesk here, which is a company that I remember from my early days of engineering. So maybe a fun way to start the conversation. We're going to dive into Autodesk Fusion a little later in this conversation. But, you know, when some people think of Autodesk, they think, hey, AutoCAD, right? How do you provide a broader picture to that than more than just CAD drawings?
Yeah, it really, I do think that's a bit of a stereotype. They think AutoCAD, they think Autodesk. The reality is, you know, Autodesk has been involved in pretty much anything you interact with on a daily basis, right? So media and entertainment is something that people don't realize we're into. So if you've watched any movie in the last 20 years, our software has been used to create a lot of the content and the effects for those movies. We're obviously really big in the AEC and construction space. But what we're here to talk about, you know, today and at IMTS is we are really making, and have been for years, a big emphasis on designing and making in the manufacturing and engineering space. And so we really do have this kind of, you know, D&M, design and manufacturing, AEC and construction, and M&E. So you probably couldn't go too far without really interacting with something that was designed and made with an Autodesk solution.
Yeah, I've started to see you in more places than just the spots I remember from my early days of engineering. We're going to talk about that a bit later in the interview, but first, let's talk about your experience in manufacturing and CAD. You were telling me a pretty interesting story right at the start where you remember, I think you said your 1990 drafting class, and that was your first introduction to CAD, if you will.
Yeah, so I was one of those folks that maybe didn't do well academically all the time, but you put me in a wood shop, you put me in a room learning how to do some drafting, and when it was probably 9th or 10th grade, so somewhere in the early 90s, the drafting instructor was like, hey Luke, we just got AutoCAD, I need you to figure out how to use this, and if you do, I'm going to give you an A for the year for the class. So there was this giant stack of floppy disks.
It's a heck of a bargain right there.
and I took it for sure.
Yeah, I would too.
And the computers were these giant computers in this giant locked metal box. I mean, it was, but I did get it up and running in probably like 2 weeks or so, and I ended up teaching our drafting instructor like how to use AutoCAD, and I will say that was one of the few A's that I got that year, but it was a lot of fun.
Hey, take A's wherever you can get them. I love that story. So you've been doing like design and manufacturing for a long. Was that your earliest experience, or were you even tinkering around with other stuff before that?
I was definitely a tinkerer. So I was that kid that would, you know, take a VCR apart if it was broken and fix it. I mean, it was just one of those knacks that I had as a young kid, and it really, you know, served me well in my career. You know, it was something that I did through college. I worked for a reseller back in the day, a company called Mesa back in Pittsburgh as an Autodesk reseller. So that's where I really got connected with Autodesk and, you know, doing a lot of training, implementations, consulting. So it's been a long journey, and I've now been with Autodesk, you know, coming up on maybe 14 years next year. So it's been an awesome ride. I can't complain.
Yeah, no, I love the story so far. We're going to keep going with the story and maybe how we get the next generation to repeat your story a few times over as well. But we're going to go to a sponsor break real quick. We'll be right back.
Additive manufacturing has grown from a niche prototype building process to a production-ready technology enabling new opportunities. It's a manufacturing tool that no one should be without. Building on its annual flagship event in Frankfurt, Germany, Formnext is bringing the most comprehensive, best-in-class additive manufacturing trade show to the United States at Formnext Chicago in 2025.
In my opinion, Formnext is the most important additive show in the world. We go to Formnext in order to find new products to offer to our customers and to get a good pulse of how the industry is doing.
You'll find buyers and sellers there. You're finding and talking to people that are looking for additive manufacturing solutions. And it's everywhere from people who have never worked with additive before to people who have been in working with the technology for a long time and looking kind of for the latest and greatest.
Formnext, the entire ecosystem of industrial additive manufacturing in one place. Join us for the inaugural Formnext Chicago in 2025. Discover more at formnextchicago.com.
All right, we are back. Luke, we were talking about your early days in manufacturing, design, engineering, but I want to ask you a question that brings us more around to the present. Like, what drives you in your career today?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, especially since I've been, with Autodesk again for the last, 13, 14 years, like technology is changing like so rapidly. And, I've been, again, since the 90s, I've been involved with, manufacturing and design. And I think that the ability to kind of go with that change in technology is something that for me is exciting, because it's literally for me personally, from day to day, month to month, year to year, it's always something new and interesting, and, personally, I'm probably, a little bit on the side where like I need things to be different and exciting, and in this industry it's exciting. I mean, whether you're someone that wants to run machines and what it takes to do that, or if you want to be more on the engineering side of things, it's a really great opportunity, I think, for young folks, coming out of college, coming out of university, coming out of a tech school, to really get into a field that's dynamic, a field that is so in demand that, it's been really exciting to be a part of.
Well, let's talk about that excitement. I think it's fair that we're having a conversation like this at IMTS, where there's technology, people in the industry, folks that have been here for a long time, folks that are new to the industry. They're everywhere around here. How do we take the excitement that you have and bring that excitement to the next generation? What are some of the ways you think we can accomplish that? Yeah,
I think one of the things that we need to make sure that folks understand, and this younger generation understands, folks that are in high school, going to a tech school, graduating college, is that this isn't old school engineering and CAM anymore. Nowadays the technology and the solutions that you're running, I mean, this is like cutting edge. Like, perfect example is like 20 years ago, would you have asked me about like AI in manufacturing?
Right.
And the fact that like now, AI is literally the hot button right now for design and manufacturing, and pretty much anywhere you go. And to be involved with something like that, I think is something that, regardless, again, whether you want to be on the shop floor programming parts, or you want to be in the engineering department creating those designs, to be able to just work with tools and technology that like just are so good at automating, analyzing, and augmenting your day to day, it's a great opportunity. And if you check out, I think if you check out the pay ranges and all those sorts of things, like engineering and manufacturing, I mean, it is a really stable, good paying career that I think maybe folks don't think of whenever they're in high school and college.
I think they're getting around to it. I think when the next generation sees their friends or kids they know that are like 4 or 5 years older than them, and they're like 25 and they're 20, and they're seeing this 25-year-old making bank in the manufacturing industry, that's when that message really starts to resonate, right? You're like, oh, I can be just like that person over there, and you start taking that path to get there.
Yeah, and it really hit for me. I remember my daughter, she's turning 18 here next weekend, and whenever she started thinking about what she wanted to do for a career, she's not doing it, but she considered engineering. She's like, it's exciting, it pays well, the schools you get to go to are amazing. So when my daughter asked me about it, it really kind of hit home that, yeah, I can definitely see, kids in college and high school and this younger generation, really getting involved. So
this is a fun question, because you were talking about artificial intelligence, all the new technologies that are in manufacturing now. If you were to give advice to your 12-year-old self, or to, let's say, a younger person in industry right now, what would be your timeless piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, I think the timeless piece is always be learning. I would honestly say that, early in my career, I wouldn't say I was a bit of a curmudgeon, but there were times where this works and I don't want to change it. But, now with how quickly technology is changing, if you're always learning, there's always an opportunity to do something better. There's always an opportunity to do something faster. And I think that curiosity that comes up in learning, I think that is something that if I would have had that maybe earlier in my career and earlier in my life, I think it would have served me well, and that's what I'd recommend to anybody. Just be curious, make sure that you're always learning, and always look for those opportunities to kind of better yourself as a person.
Be curious. That's very Ted Lasso if you're familiar with that show.
I didn't mean to do that. As soon as I said it, I realized that I was quoting Ted Lasso, but, that happens.
It's great. Well, what a great pop culture reference to go into before we jump into a sponsored break. We will be right back for the last part of our interview.
Watching The Creators Lounge. Gain insights as our hosts talk to expert guests about key industry topics. Come see the action live on the trade show floor. Visit booth 338 600. See you at The Creators Lounge.
All right, we are back for our third and final round of our interview with Luke Mihelcic. We've been talking a lot about your career and getting the next generation involved, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Autodesk Fusion. So we talked about it at the very beginning of the conversation. Tell us, if you're just getting familiar with it for the first time, how is this an all-in-one solution? How is this something that is helping, dare we say, revolutionize the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, so we have our Autodesk and Design Make platform. So this is, really high level, our platform for AEC, M&E, and we're going to focus on the design and manufacturing side of it. And Fusion is our industry cloud for manufacturing. And what we're doing with Fusion is we're taking down these kind of silos that have existed in design and manufacturing and all the processes that go along with it on a factory floor. These were tools and solutions that literally you would sneaker net it to get things from one location to another location. Mm-hmm. And what Fusion does is it takes all of these, again, previously siloed applications and individuals and, people and processes and data, and we bring that together on our single industry cloud, which is Fusion.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go a bit further than that. I mean, because this, as I'm hearing you talk about it, would clearly tie into a digital transformation solution, if you will. Can you paint the picture of what this looks like in use, in practice? Maybe take us to a manufacturing and design company and give us a scenario, if you will.
Yeah, so it's interesting you talk about digital transformation, and these are one of those, kind of buzzwords and topics that I think get used in a lot of cases, and people don't necessarily understand mm-hmm. what digital transformation necessarily is. And essentially, it's coming whether you like it or not. You know, right now there's these industries that again are not connected. These companies, we'll use your example. You have a company that, let's say, has an engineering department using one solution. They have someone in manufacturing using a separate solution, and then they have their whole production and factory facilities using, let alone, a third, fourth, or fifth solution. And you know, these organizations have just tons of inefficiencies. And what we want to do is we want to get rid of those inefficiencies. And when you start to break down these silos and remove these inefficiencies and losses of data throughout that whole, you know, that stream from, you know, the idea through manufacturing and shipping it out the door, the exciting thing is not only it unlocks innovation, but it's also going to give you real competitive advantages. So we'll use that perfect example of let's say you're an engineering organization, you're making an XYZ component. Not only are you going to ideate faster, you're also going to connect from your engineering organization directly to your manufacturing organization seamlessly. So that data flow is going to make sure that if there's a change that needs to happen, all parties involved are going to know about it, and it's going to be a really easy process for that. Then we take it to production and assembly and packaging and shipping. What's going to happen there is all of that data is on that single platform, Fusion. And again, that innovation, that time to market, all of those things are really going to come together and just help these organizations be, you know, more profitable, more resilient. And we really think that's what we do for our customers is we help take them on this digital transformation journey.
Yeah, so you're bringing this from design to engineering to production. Like you're literally going through the flow, and I think it's worth emphasizing. I mean, collaboration is just built into this, right? Can we go into that a little bit more? I just want to make sure we drive that point home, especially for the folks here at like IMTS that could be using this. Yeah, so collaboration has been something that we have been, I'll say, passionate about since day one. And one of the most important pieces, and I kind of intermix collaboration and data, because they're essentially the same thing. Yeah, you're collaborating on that data. And the minute you take, this manufacturing data model and you expose it to everybody in your organization, that means folks in purchasing can understand what they have in stock, who the best supplier might be, and make sure that that is ready for when production starts. And when you have this granular access to that data, like that is when true collaboration is going to happen. And the other thing too is it doesn't just have to be collaboration inside your four walls of your organization. The great part about Fusion is because this is a cloud solution. If you have suppliers and third-party vendors that support you throughout your digital transformation, they can all be included and have access to that exact same data if you want them to. Yeah. So as we wrap things up, how would you get started? How do you take this off? How do you approach this in like a bite-sized chunk, if you will? Yeah, so bite-sized chunk. So first of all, if you're here at IMTS, I would love for folks to just stop by the booth. We have a slew of SMEs, people way smarter than me that can tell you a whole lot about Fusion, what our industry cloud can do for you as a solution. And I think that's really important. If you're here, stop by the Autodesk booth. If you're not here, I would, go to autodesk.com, Google Fusion, and we have a free 30-day trial that's going to give you access to all of these capabilities in that 30-day trial to try for yourself firsthand. Well, I do have one other question, and you're a former podcaster as well. I hope the audience has picked up that you've got the podcasting chops while you've been here. One question I always like to ask is, out of all the stuff we've talked about so far, we've talked about your career, we've talked about the next generation, we've talked about Autodesk, is there anything you wish I would have asked that I haven't yet? Oh, wish you would have asked. That's a good one. I probably wish that you would have asked about my dinner plans this week because I have a crew of folks from the UK that have come over, yes. And I'm fairly certain I'm going to be required to do the obligatory Chicago deep dish pizza dinner for them. So that's going to be exciting. Chicago's a beautiful city. We're so happy to be here at IMTS 2024, and I couldn't be more excited to share Fusion and our industry cloud and our vision with all your listeners. sharing Fusion, sharing Chicago-style pizza. Can't think of a better way to kick off things here at IMTS. Luke, thank you so much for jumping on here at the Creators Lounge.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.